Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are going to talk about Wolves, the $200 million film that made 20 million, I think. Like, it did not do well, but it was an excellent film. And this isn't my first video on Wolves and Dungeons and Dragons, but I had more to say. So let's get into this. So, um, Wolves is a fascinating movie. It's George Clooney. He still makes movies. Yeah, he does. And when he does, he gets paid, and he makes sure that it's a good movie with money behind it, right? So he made a movie with Brad Pitt, and the movie is called Wolves, and it's wolves misspelled, right? It's like lone wolves, right? Like that's, and basically it is guys who do cleanup, right? When something goes real wrong, you do a cleanup, right? You actually can do a cleanup. And so that's what these guys do. They do cleanups, right? So they clean up when somebody has died or when there's been a murder, right? And so, but this movie is about two cleaners being called at exactly the same time. That's pretty interesting. That is an interesting subject, right? So, you know, and it really is a fascinating film. I was very impressed with this movie. And so basically, they come across this kid. This kid's got 3 kilos of cocaine on him, and he's supposed to be dead. They're supposed to remove him and remove what's in his, and remove everything for this DA who was horizontal mambo with this kid. He's not a kid. He's that's incorrect. Not a kid. He is a college student. Okay, so it's a college student having a intimate relationship with like a 50-year-old woman. Kind of sus. But this kid's got 3 kilos of cocaine in his bag. His whole life is sus, right? So they come in to clean this kid up, right? Literally to remove his body and put it in a hole where nobody's ever going to find it, right? So then he turns out to be alive, right? And then at this point, the movie becomes how to get these 3 kilos of cocaine back to the people who it belongs to, because that kind of money, somebody's going to come and kill this kid. So they, these 2 cleaners are like, we want to keep this kid alive. Let's try to keep this kid alive. So they do, right? So they go about the business of helping him return the drugs, right? So he returns the drugs to this like warehouse full of cars, and there's a bunch of like European nation, 2 different, I think it's Russians and Czechoslovakians who get into fights, right? And they shoot each other, right? And the kid gets to the point where everybody in the place is dead, but he came here to return the drugs to these guys, but the guys who he was going to return the drugs to are dead, right? And so then he looks at the 2 cleaners and he's like, what do I do? And so George Clooney says, finish the job, right? And he's like, okay, I can do that. And so he's like, oh, return the drugs, right? So even though, and this was fascinating, right? Because it's 3 kilos of cocaine, it's going to be worth a fortune, right? But you finish the job, right? You finish the job, right? So you return this cocaine, even though the person's dead, right? You just put it right next to him. But now there's a whole bunch of Czechoslovakians. He's not sure which one the drugs belong to. And so he's like, how do I finish the job? How do I do this, right? And then Brad Pitt steps in and he says, what is the story you're trying to tell? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Dungeons and Dragons. That's Dungeons and Dragons. That's Dungeons and Dragons, right? So this is what I love. Why is Gary Gygax so important? On February 6th, 1974, The World Sucked. Hey, I would like a story. Hey, here's a book. Was this book written for me? No, it was written for 1,000 people. It was written for 10,000 people. It was written for 10 million people. It was not written for you, right? That author doesn't care what you think, okay? Shut up and read it. The World Sucked. February 7th, 1974. Gary Gygax is like, we're going to change how stories are told forever, right? Oh, you're listening to the story and you don't like it? Raise your eyebrow. Oh, author? dungeon master, author. Did you see that the person who's listening to your story just raised their eyebrow at what you were doing in the story? They didn't like it. You better change it immediately. Not immediately, right? Oh, and both of you, both the audience and the author, are interrupted by fate itself. It's the most powerful narrative form that has ever been created. It is so incredible, right? It's incredible, right? And it also put on notice an entire group of people, right? Now, what is that group of people, right? The most charismatic, confident, and intelligent people in the world were told, what kind of story are you trying to tell, right? And this gets very interesting. What kind of story are you trying to tell? And the answer is, I'm trying, and the answer is more than what my life is saying, right? I have 30 stories to tell, and they all happen on different worlds. And my heart beats on 30 worlds, and I will see the sunset on 30 worlds, right? One story, one narrative is not enough for me. I need to live on 30 worlds. And that's incredible, right? And also this question, what story are you trying to tell, brings it back and says that narrative is the most powerful force a human can interact with. And if you don't have Dungeons and Dragons, then you don't know narrative. You don't know modern narrative. You only know antiquated, sucky narrative. Wolves is a brilliant film, and if you're a dungeon master, you got to go watch it. If you're a dragon master, live it. What story are you trying to tell? At the table and beyond the table. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.